Hello, this is Dr. Harriet Fraad with Capitalism Hits Home, a show about the interactions and interconnectedness of all the aspects of our lives: political, economic, social, biological, and psychological. It's produced by Democracy at Work, which is a small donor organization that survives because of people like you. Help support our work. Please subscribe to Democracy at Work on YouTube. Just press that red subscribe button and join the others, and we will get to our goal of 300,000 subscribers, which we are almost at. So thank you very much. Today, I want to continue the discussion of the broken social bonds in America that have made us very polarized and crazy in many ways. What do I mean? How do I continue? Well, one bond we had was with our government. We had a sense that America was the greatest military might in the world, and America would protect us. Well, although America has the biggest stockpile of weapons and is the wealthiest country, we've lost the 3 wars we fought. And even though we fought them against nations without an air force, poor nations, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, we've all been treated to pictures of Americans racing to get out on our helicopters. The American empire is falling. Of course, everything that rises falls. It happened with the British Empire. It's happening with ours. Now, the American empire. We're really not protected in too many ways. We're depriving our citizens. It's another way our government isn't protecting us. It's not protecting us from poverty. Poverty is increasing in the United States. American child poverty is up to almost 20%. 1 in 5. And 1 in 4 children doesn't always get enough to eat. Almost 20%, 19.5% of Black Americans live in poverty. That's outrageous. We're supposed to be competing for the hegemony of the world, the greatest power of the world, with China. But China, whatever its problems, has lifted 880 million of its citizens out of poverty. And their next stated goal is common prosperity. Wow, no wonder we're falling behind. Our social bond with our nation was based in part on our ability to make a decent standard of living here. And that is not happening. It's traumatic. The biggest employers in the United States are failing the people that work there. According to Emily Gindelsberger's brilliant book On the Clock, the 4 biggest employers that employ most Americans are Walmart, Amazon, call centers, and fast food. Everyone who works there is on the clock. They are extensions of robots. At call centers, they have a script from which they cannot ad lib or in any way change. They are constantly on the clock, having to sell, having to placate customers, and so on. They are not given any downtime except for short breaks where they have to come back. They're also paid very poorly. The biggest employer of all is Walmart, that pays so little it has purposefully extended parking lots so people can live in their cars. And they have a desk that help their poorly employed and poorly paid employees get food stamps because Walmart doesn't pay them enough to live properly, as well as monitors them all the time. On Amazon, everyone has a scanner. If you're not performing your task within the allotted time, it beeps and beeps and beeps because you are an extension of a robot that has to perform routine tasks constantly. At Amazon, there are free vending machines with pain meds because to do your job, you have to walk 11 to 15 miles a day, and people are exhausted and hurting, and they need pain meds. They're not given free because they have compassion. They're given free so that their workers can keep working. You're not allowed to listen to music. You're not allowed to have headphones. You're not allowed to have a phone. You just work as an extension of a robot all day. That's why they have 100% turnover. However, that's an inhumane way that some of the biggest employers are working. The same thing is true in fast food. At McDonald's, you have 2 minutes and 33 seconds, if there is no line, to get your customer's order, provide them with their order, and have them leave so that you can get the next person in line. None of these jobs that are where most Americans work have any time to talk to one another during the day, how to just put your elbows on a table or a desk, how to take a deep breath except for short breaks, which are then interrupted and you are clocked if you come back a minute late. This is an inhumane treatment of people. And so that the bond between an American employee and employer has no more pretense of being nurturing. Capitalists are making money by pushing you like a robot all day. And this happened because our government does not protect us. It's now bowing to the will of the richest oil companies while it delivers an inflation to the rest of us. Now, what's going on? Well, what's going on to make the major oil and gas companies in this country soar while people are hurting because of inflation? Well, once the United States was using Ukraine to exhaust Russians and created sanctions against Russian oil, Europe and many other countries couldn't get the cheap Russian oil on which they need to survive because oil and gas make electricity. Without electricity, oil and gas economies don't work. America, of course, has enough oil. We really don't need to import any oil from anyone. So sanctions against Russian oil really didn't matter to us, but they really hurt our European allies and our Eastern European allies. Gas prices and oil prices, because of that, zoomed. OPEC and the other oil-producing countries charged ever-increasing prices because Russian oil wasn't available and it was cheaper. In addition, the Russians sent their oil and gas to China and India, who then resell it at a higher price. American oil companies didn't have to raise their prices because we have enough oil domestically. We didn't need that. However, they were not going to be put out of the enormous profits. Therefore, in 3 months, in 1/4 of a year, ExxonMobil had earnings of $19.7 billion. Shell reported $9.7 billion. Chevron beat expectations with an $11.2 billion profit. Wow. And all of this is in 3 months, while Americans were suffering because prices went up because oil and gas are necessary for everything. And American oil companies would not be outcompeted by others and make less money. Oh, no. So they increased the prices. And Biden asked them, please regulate your prices, to which they said, of course not. We have distributed our wealth. After all, we raised the dividend to our stockholders. How many Americans own stocks in oil companies? Only 1% of Americans own any large amount of stocks, and only 10% own any stocks. So they told Biden, Go pound sand. Biden then turned to OPEC and asked other nations that produce oil to produce more and lower the price. And they told him, forget it, we're not doing that. They owe nothing to America. We have to remember that in 1971, Nixon froze prices because he had a wage price freeze passed. And when that law was enacted, that decree by Nixon, if you raised your prices, you could be jailed. And the inflation was stopped. FDR stopped inflation because FDR rationed goods because World War II created shortages so that everybody got enough and prices didn't rise. But now our government is beholden to large corporations who can tell the president to buzz off. We are not protected from the ravages of huge capitalist corporations. And people feel that their social bond with their government to protect them is broken. Salvador Ferenczi, Freud's disciple, was right when he said that trauma is caused by broken social bonds. And that bond with our government is broken. We're not protected. And therefore, we're not connected to the sense that we're okay because our government protects us. Now, what do we do about this? Because helplessness is one of the biggest causes of trauma. It is one of the most disturbing things, helplessness. So what can we do to help this situation and save our mental health as well as save our country and our connectedness to each other? Well, the first thing we have to do is join. We have to join whatever we believe in. And then we have to join the socialist message wherever we are, where we need to connect, regardless of any kind of racial, ethnic, sexual, gender differences. We have to connect because we need each other to fight these enormous, massive, wildly wealthy capitalist corporations, which our government will not protect us from. They use that money to get elected. They're not going to protect us. We have to push the idea of a cooperative economy, an economy that shares, an economy that is not divided between wealthy employers and employees who get just enough to survive, or even less. You know, in the recent election, even in the reddest states where there was a clear choice of what you believe in and what you want, people voted progressively. Kentucky did not pass the overall abortion ban that they wanted. They had a choice, total abortion ban or not. They chose no total abortion ban. The same thing in Kansas, another red state, because Americans do choose just alternatives when there are clear alternatives. And they're not very clear in the United States. We need a clear socialist alternative. We have two capitalist parties, capitalism light, the Democrats, and capitalism heavy, the Republicans. That's no choice. We need a choice of system like they have in France so that we can choose a socialist alternative, a sharing alternative, which will be excellent for our mental health as well as our physical health. And one way that workers are choosing this is in their unions. We have more union organizing than anybody's seen in this country since the 1930s, another time of capitalist failure and disconnection. The railroad workers, that's 60,000 workers, recently rejected the contract worked out by their bureaucratic union heads and Biden. They rejected it. So they came up with another contract, which was $24,000 more and more flexibility. That may also be rejected. It is being questioned. Even though they got $5,000 more in bonuses, 24% raises, they wanted more because workers want to be respected. The union leader, when asked, said, "They don't understand the level of anger and privation of our members. They want cheaper health insurance. They want protection." The recent victories of socialism, whether in France under Mélenchon or in Chile, in Brazil, in Colombia, they all had one thing in common. They were unity, a unity coalition of progressive labor unions, and their labor unions are more socialist than ours. So the socialist and communist labor unions and movements for racial equality, movements for equality of indigenous people, movements for equality of gender and reproductive rights, movement for gender choices without condemnation, all under the banner of socialism, which sees the importance of all these issues, but also the greater importance of uniting as a class of deprived people, which gives us the mass to be able to fight against the enormous corporations that are fleecing us. We need to connect to a positive vision, a vision that unites us, a vision that recognizes the differences and honors them without blaming or discriminating, because we are the masses, we are the majority. That's what the railroad workers realized when they realized they could stop this country if they don't get treated right. That's what we all have to realize. And that is our hope, and that is our connection, and that will save our mental health, because mental health is dependent on connection. And if we connect with hope, we'll win and feel better and be less crazy as Americans. Because as Ferenczi said, trauma is because of broken social bonds. We need to connect and make new social bonds and win. Thank you very much. From Democracy at Work, from Harriet Fraad. Do remember to subscribe. Thank you very much.